The dark clouds of corruption still overshadow politics in, for example, the Rainbow Nation. South Africa's watchdog says the Home Affairs and former Finance Minister Malusi Gigaba should be punished for lying under oath. That was when he was being questioned about a private airport facility. And it comes days after President Cyril Ramaphosa held a major investment conference in Johannesburg. Now, corruption, of course, isn't just a problem in South Africa. Governments across the continent are making major moves to clean it up. The issue is it working where you live? You can see the question on the screen now. Vote at cnn.com/. The choice is no, it's getting worse. No, it's pretty much the same. Yes, it's getting a little bit better. Yes, it's getting a lot better. Now, we've given you the full range of things that you can vote for. So you can't simply say, oh, that Quest is once again banging on about corruption in Africa. At cnn.com/join, have your say, give us your view on the state of play. We'll ask our next guest in a moment at the end of the interview, just in case you decide to preempt. Joe Emanuel is with me, former finance minister, now with the responsibility of, for the new government, of drumming up business investment.
Yes, indeed. Since President Ramaphosa was elected by Parliament on the 15th of February, he's made a lot of commitments, and I think he's been able to deliver a fair amount of that. The last period has been very good. The investment conference just last week, and 2 weeks prior to that, there was a a job summit that brought together trade unions, business and government. So there's a fair amount on the boil at the moment.
Fair amount, but is the issue of transparency and good governance, is it still being raised to you when you talk about investment opportunities in South Africa?
Well, yes, partly because of certain actions that have been taken. We have, sitting at the moment, a number of commissions. One of them is headed by the Deputy Chief Justice, Raymond Zondo, looking at state capture. And I think that over the next 18 months or so, as this commission plods its way through stories, it'll appear as though there's a lot more corruption because it's the launching of the boil.
Right, but you are well on record with, I think it was how you described the previous presidency as Jacob Zuma as a disaster.
Yes.
Far from getting better, during that presidency, the situation got exponentially worse on these issues. So there is a much deeper hole from which you have to dig yourself out.
Yes, there are a couple of issues that have immediate impact. The first of those is to bring those who've been involved in corruption to book. So there's a commission sitting on that. A second side of it, so that happened on the spending side. On the revenue side, the revenue administration was completely destroyed. And there's a commission headed by a retired judge looking at that as well. And this very morning, the president actually fired the guy who'd been brought in by Jacob Zuma as the commissioner for the Revenue Service.
Can I just ask you, how, you said you warned, you said you kept asking again and again and again, how is this being allowed to continue? How was it allowed to continue for so long? Complicated question, of course, but at the end of the day, it was well within the gift of the ANC to get rid of him.
It was, but I think the problem is that sometimes people are numbed. You can look at many administrations around the world today where there are strong men. I don't know of any strong women, but strong men in position. And people go along with what they say. I mean, you know, in the run-up to the midterm elections, you look at what's being said, and people go along with it.
That's a very clever draw to Donald Trump.
No,
very clever.
You can look at Brazil right now. I think it's going to be the same. You can see it in the Philippines. Why are these things allowed to continue? Because all of us have lived through a period of democracy's high point when you had governments that were far more accountable. And we've lived through 9 years of Jacob Zuma where the situation deteriorated. And I draw a distinction between his first term, which ended in 2014, and the period between 2014 and the 14th of February this year, when I think the situation just got substantially worse.
If you had to answer the question that we've asked about the state of corruption, a little bit better, Much better, a little bit worse, a lot worse. What would you say?
I think the first issue is what do you know and what did you know? And many South Africans will learn a lot more about the corruption that has taken place, and it feels a lot worse when in fact it's the lancing of the boil. Because there are processes that seek to root out the corruption entirely. And there are other countries, I mean, when I look at the situation in Mozambique, you know, where the poster child of Africa, the poster child of the developing world, got itself into deep trouble and is now working its way through. If I were in Mozambique, I would look at the evidence and say it's actually getting a bit better.
Let's stay with you, Trevor Manuel, for a bit longer, just to put in context what we were talking about last night on this program. On this program last night, we had another of our polls, where the question was, which economy is going to lead South Africa in the next 20 years?
Africa, presumably.
I beg your pardon, in Africa. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Which economy in Africa is going to lead in the next 20 years? Nigeria and Kenya were both duelled it out. South Africa was way, way down. The confidence in South Africa to be a leading economy in Africa is dwindling.
I think it can be won back, though I don't think it's a kind of race to the top or the bottom. I think that we have to do a lot more together. The African Continental Free Trade Agreement, which Nigeria will hopefully join quite soon, brings with it a lot of promise. Next week, the African Development Bank is hosting an Africa-wide investment conference in Johannesburg. So the pressure's on, but I think it's about winning back trust. Last week at an investment conference hosted by President Ramaphosa, the one issue that felt like it returned into the body politic of South Africa was the issue of trust and pride.
Good to see you, sir. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Richard.